I know that many of you, as you're trying to come to terms with this whole topic of narcissism, are wanting to determine, as you're engaging with people that are on that spectrum, you're wanting to know how far down are they on the spectrum, so that as you figure that out, it can allow you to gauge what your reactions are going to be to them. One of the primary ways that you can determine how far down the line of toward narcissism a person is to watch how they respond to mistakes. Now, we all make mistakes, that's for sure, and sometimes it can be something as small as, miscalculating on a task or just losing your car keys, or it could be something as severe as great moral failures and disasters in that category, and then there are a whole lot of other possibilities in between. But when people make mistakes, the question is, do they own it? Do you admit, yes, I made a mistake? And more importantly, you want to know, do they ask the question, what does this say about my character? Now, the further you're into your narcissism, the less you're inclined towards owning it, and specifically, you're not all that inclined to ask that character question. Now, what I've done for this video is I've picked up on 8 things to watch for when a person makes a mistake that would imply that they're moving down towards the narcissistic end of the spectrum. And so I'm going to go through these, and then you see if any of these look familiar with the people that you encounter, or maybe even in your own personal life. One of the first things that narcissists might do that would indicate that they are not learning from their mistakes is they hold on to the thought that says, if I don't get caught, then the mistake really wasn't a mistake. Now, is that something you've ever encountered? There are times when people can have made some serious blunders, or maybe it's on purpose, maybe it's by accident, but they kind of look around thinking, did anybody see that? And if the right people didn't see it or know about it, then it's like, whew, I got away with one. And so to them, being correct versus incorrect, right versus wrong, is not a moral issue. It's not a character issue. It's, how did I look to other individuals? And when you think like that, then you're not likely to learn. It's just all a part of your public posturing. And that implies you're down in the narcissistic direction heavily when you think like that. And there are many times when narcissists will go into that cover-up mode. As long as nobody knows about the things that are wrong with me, then we don't have to call it wrong. I can move on and I'm in the clear. That's how they think. Or a second indicator, and that is when a mistake has been made, narcissists will ascribe responsibility to someone else. Now, a very simple illustration, let's suppose that you have a person inside the family who blows up and has some serious anger issues. So what they do is they say, well, that never would have happened except for the fact that the kids were over here arguing, or this person over here wasn't doing what they were supposed to do. And if that had never happened, then I would have had that anger issue. And so they sidestep it. I lost my temper because of somebody else's problem. And people can do this in the realm of work or in extended families. It was Aunt Maud. She's never very reliable. And so she caused me to do this over here. And it's the excuse making. We have the word for that. That's called deflecting. And there are many narcissists who are just master deflectors. If they can push it off onto someone else, then it wasn't, it may not have played out the way I wanted, but it wasn't really my mistake. It was them doing it to me. So they're the ones that are at fault. Now, a third indicator that narcissists will not learn from their mistakes. This is an interesting one. And that is they assume that shallow pleasantries cancel out what has gone wrong. Now, a classic illustration of this is that let's suppose that somebody has had some great moral failure and this person over here is greatly offended. And so what they do is they'll send them flowers. Or they'll send them chocolates, as if somehow or another that's going to make it all better. And so if you receive the flowers and the chocolates, then everything's okay. Or I've had situations where, two people can be arguing and that really overbearing, pushy, narcissistic person at the end may just stick out their hand and say, we're okay now, aren't we? And it's like just sticking out your hand and saying, let's shake. That doesn't mean that the problem goes away. Or it could be that, that you just, want to do nice things like, you know, favors around the house and things of that nature. What it does is, by having these shallow ways of saying, let's just get rid of it, it's your way of saying, I don't want to have to really deal with the real in-depth kind of stuff that goes with my mistakes. If we can just make this something simple, let's just move on down the road. And the mistake is something that we'll just forget about pretty quickly. A fourth indicator is many times narcissists are acting out of fear of being devalued, and so they won't admit wrong because they think that they will somehow or another be devalued. And so they keep up this cover of goodness and decency. And this indicates that they're highly dependent upon the public opinion polls. And so being extremely tuned into what the public opinion polls are, they'll just say and do whatever they have to do to try to make themselves look okay. So that if there has been a mistake, it's like, well, but you need to know, remember, I've done all these other nice things, and I've done these things that have proven that I'm a good person. So if one or two little glitches come along, then let's not make that anything worse than it has to be. And so they appeal to their, persona, hoping that that's going to be enough to just wash out some of the negatives that may come. And some of those negatives are really large, but it's like, well, but the other stuff cancels it out. A fifth indicator that they're not going to learn from their mistakes is narcissists can have very low inclinations towards introspection. You know, part of being a person who's recovering from your mistakes and blunders is to go down deep and ask the why questions. Why did this happen? What's going on? And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, what does this tell me about my character? Narcissist is like, do we have to go there? Do we have to talk about that kind of stuff? Look, what's happened has happened, and let's just move on. And not wanting to go and ask those penetrating kind of questions. How might I learn? What does this tell me? What are my better alternatives? How did it impact you? Then they're not going to look at their mistakes as something that they have to really claim ownership of. It's just something that we can just move past because they don't like to introspect. A sixth indicator that they're not going to learn from their mistakes is they don't really like to go into tender emotions. Tender emotions feel unnatural to them. You know, part of your willingness to admit mistakes is to have a certain empathy toward the other person. If you've done something that's improper and you know that would disappoint someone else, well, in your tenderness, you go into that person's way of thinking and feeling, and you learn how to come to terms with what has happened from that other individual's vantage point. In other words, if I've done something wrong, I know you hurt. And being a tender enough kind of person, I want to make sure that I make restitution. Narcissist is like, if I do that, then that means I give up controls and I give up my power base. Ain't no way I'm going to do that. And so they bypass the tenderness and the empathy that goes with it because it's all about being in control, which then leads to them staying in the exploitive, manipulative mindset. And then a seventh indicator that they don't learn from their mistakes is they repeatedly appeal to a grading system with the way that they stack up next to other individuals. In other words, for narcissists, it's all about where they stand in the pecking order. They think that you're either a winner or you're a loser. You're fat or you're fit. You're attractive, you're ugly. You're smart, you're dumb. You're sexually appealing, you're not appealing. You have money, you don't have money, those kind of things. And they want to make sure that they come across as being on the high end of whatever those grading pecking order topics would be. And so knowing that if they start admitting mistakes, they're going to lower themselves on the pecking order, it's like, look, something went wrong, but let's just kind of bypass that. I need to stay in the high position. I'm not going to go into anything that makes me look anything other than the best. And then finally, we can say that another reason that an eighth reason they don't really learn from mistakes is they don't really have a good understanding of intimacy. Interestingly, it's easy to attach to people and to feel close to people when everybody's doing the right thing. But the mark of true intimacy is when you can have attachments and closeness even when the negatives are exposed, or we might even say especially when the negatives are exposed. Because as we know the pluses and minuses, as we know each other's humanity, then we can more fully and more accurately know how to engage with each other in ways that can be healing and healthy. Now, there's a major paradox that narcissists just cannot grasp about how to deal with their own personal frailties. And the paradox is this: you show yourself to be weak when you must appear strong. You show yourself to be strong when you're willing to admit that you feel weak or that you are weak. Narcissists just simply can't do that. They can't say words like, "I blew it," or "I could do better," or "I'm truly sorry," or "my character is at stake here," or "I'm never too old to stop learning," or "I don't blame you for feeling hurt," or "I need to do some serious soul searching." They just simply cannot do that. So as you're trying to get a gauge about who this person in front of you is, watch how they respond to their mistakes. And knowing the things that we've discussed in this video, then it can give you a gauge to figure out how you're going to respond to them and how close that they can be to you. And if these individuals are simply not able to come to terms with their own humanity, can you imagine what they're going to do when your humanity shows up and they have to talk about how you're handling your mistakes? It ain't going to be a pretty picture. So I hope that videos such as this will give you some good insight and some good understanding of what you're dealing with. If you've not already done so, I would encourage you to go beneath the video and hit that subscribe button so we can keep more coming at you. There are times when you find the need, as you think about topics like this, to seek out some counseling. And if you have your own counselor that you can go to, I would encourage you to do that. If you don't, and you need, if you would be interested in online counseling, we vetted a sponsor that could help you with that. And we have a link below so you can avail yourself to that if that would be necessary. If you need counseling, I would strongly encourage you to get it one way or the other. In addition, we have links to my other websites, survivingnarcissism.tv, drlescarter.com, and we have a link below to our library that takes you to our books. Lots of stuff down there. Just know that I want you to be a person that knows how to read others well so that you can live in the harmony and in the steadiness that you want and deserve. And as you're able to discern the things that we're talking about, I hope that it can lead you to a place of confidence and knowing what you're up against and knowing that your values are intact. And as you engage with others, I'm hoping that you're able to live with a sense of firmness and steadiness, and most of all, I hope that you can find your place of peace. Thanks for letting me be a part of your journey, and I wish you well as you continue forward in this.